You are star seed, meaning that you have the consciousness not to be stuck on an earthbound body, to incarnate again and again on earth and no place else. You have all lived here on earth and you have lived in the cosmos. And when you feel an affinity for we, or you hear the name Pleiadian, Pleiadian, and it rings for you, or if you follow the stars or have a little cluster since childhood, you look and you seek out to that which you know in your soul and that which is familiar to you. We remind you that love implies home, and it implies all that is familiar, even if it is dysfunctional. So we fit into the category, not of dysfunctional, but we fit into the category of home. Home has been, let's say, for many of you, you've had a little nest in the Pleiades at various times. And there are tall beings, blue beings, as we said yesterday, reptilian beings. The Pleiades is more like a little bit of a university in the universe. And many souls come there to study and to create realities that they insert then as what you call developmental civilizations on worlds in the cosmos. We seed. We seed the beginning of growth. We seed ideas in which souls can be drawn in to build realities. And you say, why would you do that? What else is there to do if you can't build realities? If you never incarnated again, and you had to float around as a spirit for the rest of your existence, well, you might say, well, all right, it's just like living forever in my backyard, I'll get used to it. You wouldn't. You'd be stifled from the curiosity. The multiverse is thrilled when its members create up ideas and create ways to express energy. And the multiverse does not judge. If you want to create a big mess, the multiverse says, that's going to be a big mess, but that's your problem. You'll figure it out in the next trillion or 5 trillion years or whatever, in your terms. In your terms. All right?
Peace, could I ask you, did I make an agreement, each person in this room, to meet you here today before we ever came into this body? Or is this having lined up our energies as we've worked through our process up to this point?
We would say that because of the nature of probabilities and free will, that you were spontaneously organized and you smelled the bread that we were baking or the croissants we were baking in our bakery. And over time, impulses that helped your desire in your soul, that what you wanted, began, your higher self, your potato, began to connect you, and it's all very spontaneous. We do not subscribe to things being so set and predetermined so far in advance. Now, you can have a numerology reading on your name. You can have an astrological reading on your birth date, or someone reading the lines of your hand. And people will tell you things about yourself. And you do come in with certain goals and purposes and predilections and things that you are going to connect with, people, situations, how you are going to learn. But equally, and always, all of your lives are rich with originality and new spontaneity, so that you are not predetermined, that it doesn't mean that next week you have a different appointment with someone else that you don't remember meeting or making. There's spontaneity, and as new things flourish, the forces that work with you help guide you towards what your soul's desire is. This is why we keep bringing you back towards have desire, have intention. You will find that some disciplines will say to you, don't desire, it is very bad. Yes? You've heard this?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you have no desires, then why live? Mm-hmm. You've come here to experiment. You've come here to have sex. You have to have sex. Otherwise, you would not keep the living library going. If all the people and all the animals, all the creatures stopped having sex, it would be the end of the library. So you have come here as spirits to take on life forms that have to perpetuate themselves. And in the process of perpetuating themselves, they make a world. And beyond that perpetuation, there are all kinds of ways the world can be fluffed out. And for many of you, we know many of you in these times have not perpetuated yourself. You have chosen not to make more. And the interesting thing about these times is that a lot of people are very free not to have children. This has not been the case on the planet in general. There's always been societal or religious pressure to reproduce. The religions want you to reproduce because then there are more people to put money in the basket on Sundays. And there are more souls that then can be filtered over into a certain program, a belief system that would be run by non-physical energy, some good, some not so good. But when you have sex and you have children, what happens? Your life is enriched, yes? Yes, we know children can be a problem, but you've all been children. So you've all been a problem. Yes. So it's part of how you learn. But even if there are problems, there is love, yes? And it is the love that enriches and enhances your human experience. And that love is not built on a mirage. That love is genuine. Love is a force within existence. And so, these are unique times in which you live. The freedoms you have, the tyrannies, the choices, they're all quite unique to all of you. And so we ask you to trust that. Trust the bigger picture and don't be afraid of knowing things that are outside of your paradigm. Questions, please.
Steve.
Yes.
My name's Greg.
Greg, yes, welcome.
Thank you. I was wondering about the composition of the Earth. And I had read some articles recently that have been exposed to some information that perhaps what we call fossil fuel is actually not a fossil at all. It's something that the Earth is producing on a regular basis.
Yes, we covered this many, many years ago, that your oil, for example, is not, as your scientifics have conjectured, that it is not produced out of a graveyard of ferns and dinosaurs.
Yes.
That is what they said. It is old organic matter, yes, that decayed, dinosaurs, ferns, these kinds of things. See if you can find some dead material and bury it in the ground for a while and see if you can make oil out of it. You know, it's interesting what beings in positions of authority, the nonsense they can say, and how the media then eats it all up. And then, of course, even if you think it's foolish, you have to nod your head because you'll be tested on it in school and you have to pass the test to play the game. Yes, so what is the oil? What is the composition of Earth? What is the purpose of the oil? It's certainly not made just so that you can have a quote, fossil fuel, we'll use that term, economy and live. Because many societies have lived on Earth before you, and they had energy sources, and they had very sophisticated lifestyles. For example, there are many references in ancient texts that reveal and indicate that you have had many atomic wars on your planet. Wars between earthly forces and wars where the gods came down and were furious with the human occupants and other of their, quote, gods who were living with the humans. And these battles came, nuclear war, and they destroyed many, many territories around the earth. And let's say that your development over the last 12,000 years has been coming out of amnesia, has been the return to stabilizing Earth. About 12,000 years ago, 15,000 years ago, around those times, there were events that occurred that shifted the Earth's axis. as the Earth axis was tipped, rather than being straighter, it began to have an angle. It totally changed Earth's contact with the cosmos. And